Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This week's show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 1 finale of Gen V. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're immediately picking up in the aftermath of last episode. A lot of people theorize, like, oh, there's no way Indira's actually dead, right? Some people were theorizing that's a fake out. It seems like, no, it seems pretty cut and dry that she's dead, but once again, that could just still be a twist of, because there were theories, like, specifically on the break room, they had a theory, like, maybe you won't find out Indira's actually alive until next season. Still could be a fake out, but with just the path Kate was on, like, she was on, like, a warpath this episode, didn't seem like that was, like, what Indira wanted. It's more what Kate wanted, so I don't know. We'll see, but it seems like that was pretty, to be fair, it's like, they killed Stillwell in the first season of The Boys, so it's like not too out of pocket of them killing Indira. So, but yeah, basically, Kate and Sam kind of go off starting their own brotherhood of sorts. They go and release some of the people from the woods, other captured soups. There was one soup. He's the one that kind of has like that. He's kind of got the Black Canary ability. I'm curious. He made a joke where it's like, when's the last time you saw the sun? And he's like, oh, is Gundam style still a thing or something? I'm like, is that for real? I know that's like a throwaway joke, but it's like, oh, I've been down here that long. But I'm also curious, like, is that actually real? We know that Dusty was like 28 here. And he just looks super young. But like, if it's that might have just been an offhand joke and just like, oh, it's showing you how long it's been. Which, I think that also points volumes of like, oh yeah, like I used an old school reference that's such an old reference at this point in time, because that reference is like at least like a decade old at this point, if not a little more than a decade, right? So it's kind of interesting when you kind of feel like, oh yeah, like that the more time that passes, the more something that wasn't that old of a reference becomes even more of an old reference, and especially in the age of the internet movie. Once again, I'm getting too caught up in it, but I actually don't know whether I'm sure it was just a throwaway line, but I'm like, it feels like there still could be some truth of like, no, he probably has legitimately been locked down there since like for the past decade plus, but who knows? There weren't that many students locked down there, so I guess it'd be too suspicious if you have a whole bunch of students down there, so they probably only took like a few at a time at any point in time, so it was never like the place is riddled and filled with students, because there was only like a handful of repeats we kept seeing throughout the episode of like, oh, here's the heat vision girl, here's the like I said, to do with like the sonic ability, kind of like a Black Canary. And they go on a warpath, going around the school, killing any humans that they find. There was that teacher that was like a buddy of Indira's, ends up getting her face melted off. Because that was a sweaty student. So I guess maybe he's supposed to be kind of similar to dude from Sage Grove who had the acid breath. But it's sad, it's like it's specifically in his hands where he could just touch you and melt your face because it's like he has acidic sweat or whatever. We also don't have to worry about confusing Bob and Greg anymore because now they're both dead. Poor bastard. And Kate's like, oh, hey, it's been a while. He's like, oh. She's like, oh. Like, he's like, oh, Kate, it's been a while since you've been down here. She's like, hey, Greg. He's like, I'm Bob, I think. Or was it she? I'm confusing it now. Either way, you had Sam put his fist through his head. A little bit of pulling on a little bit of his brain. I can only assume that's what he tossed down. But that, to me, that's one of the sad casualties of the situation is Sam and Emma, which is so sad because Emma tried to talk him down, but he's so, understandable. Everything that you went through, you're angry. You're mentally not there, especially with everything that was done to you. That makes you even more mentally unstable, and it just makes you angry, and you want to lash out at everybody, and especially because much like Kate's doing all this because she believes like by doing this, I'm actually being a hero. Sam believes he's being a hero. And it's interesting because I feel like I mean, it's not a 1-to-1, but you definitely get a little bit of Huey and Starlight, where it's like, what was Huey saying the entirety of season 3? I want to save you, and how misguided he was in his attempt to save Annie. And now we have Sam kind of doing the same thing. It's like, oh, you saved me, well, it's my time to save you. And he's seeing Luke, and Luke is trying to stop him from going down this path. It's like, right, I hurt someone and the guilt got to me. I ended up killing myself. But the fact of the matter is, you don't have to go down this path, Sam. It's like, yes, what they did to you is messed up, but it doesn't justify you going off and killing innocent people. And even Emma tried to stop him. It's like, but for him, it's like, here you are trying, like, so many people have tried to control me. You didn't come to save, like, you didn't come to save me from me. You try to save you. Because I think it's just his warped mind just telling him, like, it made him start, because all anyone ever cared about when it came to Sam was, you only help me, you only want something from me. Everyone wants something from me and just wants to use me. And it's like, he's even kind of suggesting, like, Emma just wants to use him, just kind of make herself feel better, and him kind of ripping into her, saying she's not a hero, even though he's the one that kind of built her up. Like, she never had much confidence as a hero until Sam, and for him to kind of say all that shit to her, you know, I think it's because on some level he's he's also, once again, he's so angry, but I think it's also that he feels like she's rejecting him. It's like, hey, you are turning against, you are not siding with me. You're not with me. For him, it's just that we are in this large divide, and he's just, once again, just not all there. Because even later on, he's like, yeah, maybe this isn't the right thing to do. We are killing innocent people. And that's so heartbreaking when you just see Emma, like, break down like that, because, like, her heart was crushed in that moment, because she legitimately, like, felt like, hey, we're two fucked up people in this fucked up world who found each other, and for him to kind of, like, throw her aside like that. And in that moment, that symbolism becomes real when she literally gets small. But this plays into something I brought up in a previous episode, wondering if that's how Emma's powers would work. That maybe it's associated with a psychological trigger for her, because maybe that was her introduction to her powers, was like throwing up and eating to get big. That maybe now her power, like, psychologically, she associated with her powers, so that was the only way she could control it, because of that psychological trauma associated with it. But it seems like she can just kind of grow and shrink whenever she wants to. I mean, we don't have clarity on that, but I mean, it seems like that's what that's indicating when she's able to get small by herself. The example I used, I distinctly remember, was using Yo-Yo from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Long story short, what I won't get into the nitty gritty of it. If you're not familiar with Yo-Yo's circumstance, basically she had this power where she can rebound. Like, she runs as far as she can in a heartbeat, but whatever her starting point was, she would always rebound to where she started. That was how her power worked. Turns out that's actually not what it's supposed to be. She's a straight up speedster, but it's because of a psychological trauma she had. She ended up inadvertently putting a limiter that was born from psychological trauma on her powers, and now that limiter ended up being removed, so she was just a full-blown regular speedster. So maybe that's kind of the similar thing with Emma here, where, like, the limiter is off. Now it's like, oh, I don't just need food to go. Now, the thing is, no one else knows that now. Like, everyone's just assumed, like, oh, she has to throw up. But, I mean, maybe it might also be it's not food or purging yourself that's the trigger for getting small or growing. It might just be based on your emotions, because she was so distraught in that moment. She felt so small in that moment, and her feelings overwhelmed her. And I think it's just, I want to get small and disappear, and boom, she got small. So we didn't see how she got big, so she might have ran and because she's, it's just new to her, so maybe she still needed to eat to grow back, or maybe she figured it out. We have no idea. So it's also sad, too, with the Sam situation, when, like, Luke is trying to talk to him, but it's his personification of his brother. I even love it. It's like, yo, is Emma the only girl to ever made you bust a nut? And he said no, which is, like, interesting. And then he was like, inside of her. And then, like, Sam turned and looked annoyed at him. But I was like, well, we know Sam's a virgin. Not unless he was lying to Emma when he said that, but it might be a thing of, maybe he's had hand jobs or blow jobs before, but never like full blown sex. So maybe that's what that's supposed to indicate. I just thought that was an interesting conversation because I was watching someone else. They brought up the fact that no condom. I was like, I guess not. Which now makes you go, is that going to be a thing in the future? Like the fact is they were so caught up in the moment. There was no condom involved, and you're like, I mean, that depends on if, I mean, we don't know if Sam's sterile or not, but, that could turn into something later on if that's the route they go. Who knows? But, it was also meant to be kind of a joke of just like, oh, yeah, you're kind of turning on the girl who let you, but, like, it's kind of like, she let you come inside her. Like, that's kind of a big deal. So it's kind of, so it's kind of jokey, but it's all, so I'm curious if that's just once again meant to be a throwaway joke, or is it like, no, that's set up for Emma might end up being pregnant with Sam's kid at some point in time. Maybe they're probably not going to go down that route. I mean, because I'm also being stupid because it's like, well, that doesn't mean anything because it's like, birth control is a thing. So it's like, it doesn't necessarily, condom situation doesn't have to be involved. It could just be like like I said, a birth control situation, so that could make the whole point I was about to make moot. But you get where I was coming from at the very least, so. I'd also, we have the trustees on campus. I thought it was so interesting. It's like, all right, let's run through like the pretend. We need to mitigate a lot of this shitstorm that is this. We need to hurry up and move someone up to the 7 to kind of get some of the bad light off of Godolkin. So Andre was first on the list, obviously. And I love the whole thing. It's like, strengths or whatever. And it's like, I can do a British accent, which I'm like, is that supposed to be a nod to, is that supposed to be a nod to him from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina? Because he put on like kind of a British-ish accent for Ambrose in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. So I'm wondering if that was supposed to be kind of a nod to that. And then one of the trustees was kind of like, yeah, because he's kind of testing pretty dark or something. And then like skin tone wise, he's kind of scoring more on the dark side. And even Ashley was saying like, well, then we'll get like Annie Leibovitz to shoot him, you racist shit, which is so interesting. It's so interesting when like Ashley says and does fucked up things, but then she calls someone out. It's like, well, I mean, that's the hypocrisy of Ashley sometimes. But I guess it's kind of like a thing of, yeah, I say some marketing shit. I may say some foul and wild shit, but I don't say anything racist or, I don't know. I just thought that was so interesting. Also, well, she's labeled as also Ashley. I just called her other Ashley. But I was like, hey, other Ashley. Had no idea she was in Lock and Key until I was looking through the IMDb. I don't think I noticed that during season 3 of The Boys. But either way, she's here. We haven't seen her since the season 3 finale, so I wasn't sure she still worked at VOD or not. Seems like she does, so. I also love that Burke was able to show up because I was like, because him and Ashley have not been in anything together since those season 3 premiere when they banged it out at the Dawn of the 7 premiere. And I love that he was like, yeah, if you don't let me in here, I'm going to let people know about what we did at like that prostate cancer thing we were at, like in the bathroom or whatever. So kind of almost implying like bathroom hookups wasn't just a one-time thing. It seemed like it was a frequent thing for you too, maybe. I also thought Sam was super going to kill him. I was like, oh, is he going to die? He's like, no. He's still alive, later on begging for his life. I mean, I guess it's lucky that you shacked up with the current CEO of VOD because who knows the last time him and Ashley hooked up? We have no idea. That might have been pre her becoming CEO last season, so who knows? But either way. I do think it's interesting that we are implementing also, because it's something they've only really utilized in one episode this season, but I'm assuming it's something we're going to use more and more going forward, is that whole notion that all superheroes, all supes have enhanced hearing, so loud, frequent sound waves can affect everyone. They did it on the campus, and it was affecting everyone. Because the first implementation of that was kind of like season 2's finale, like to draw Homelander away. That was the only time. I mean, it makes sense. He's got super good hearing. His hearing's is better than everyone else. But once again, it is that level of all supes have like some margin of like marginal superhuman strength or like other enhanced senses, but some abilities rise above all that. Like there's just a baseline of like you get a boost of superhuman strength and other things. So like all supes are affected by it. That's just kind of an interesting thing this show kind of implemented into the lore that we hadn't really dived into outside of Homelander up to this point. The one that surprised me, something that surprised me was when we got Jeff showing up again and he ends up killing that supe. He was like, "Oh, my cover's blown." I was like, "Who do you work for?" And then later on, Kate blows his head up. But I was like, because later on, Ashley was trying to, as in like the other Ashley was trying to contact him. She was like, Jeff, and I was like, wait, I was like, okay, so I don't know how to interpret that. Either that's interpret, because I was like, wait, it's like, do you work for Mallory? Were you her inside person to keep an eye on Indira? Because she was like, oh, keep an eye on her, and it's like, I'd associated that with one of the boys with the post credits. I'm like, or the mid credits. I was like, is that what that's supposed to imply? Like it was that, or is it implying like it was? But I don't know how to interpret that. There's so many loose threads that I'm like, we won't really know until the future. But I'm like, I don't know if that's implying like he just worked for Vought and he was their inside person to keep an eye on the school, or maybe he was Mallory's inside person. I have no idea how to interpret that. I was also kind of surprised when Kate ended up killing him. I thought because at first I thought like, oh, you're about to get super killed, but then he killed the super. I was like, oh, I guess he's going to be fine. But sadly, Kate got to him first, and she made a live and made a whole example of him killing him. Like he is a social media person, so you get a big enough audience. Because the other social media person, Justine, is locked in her room and can't get out. And it's like, oh my God, the Wi-Fi, LTE, how will we let people know that we're still alive? So I'm not going to sit here and go like, oh, poor Jeff. I'm kind of indifferent about Jeff, but that line of my cover is blown. I just don't know how to fully interpret that. Although while the chaos was going down at Godolkin, we had this situation with Andre and his dad. Andre ends up learning from the doctor that basically the more his dad has been using his powers over the years, the more it's messing with his brain. Now, this has been a larger conversation online in some pockets of the internet too, wondering like, okay, so are we going to find out that on some level all super abilities, I mean, we've seen kind of the drawbacks to all super abilities, like Marie using her own blood, the drawback to that, Emma and like what she has to do to get small or big, but are we going to find out all super abilities have a rebound on you on some level? Or is this just a specific issue that polarity has to deal with because of the ability? But yeah, it's like there's no reversing the damage that's done. All you can do is mitigate it going forward. Now that also means Andre's in a better spot because obviously he's younger. Like there's already irreparable damage, but we can at least slow it down, but there is no reversing it. It's going to happen the more you use your powers. But if you can take the precautions necessary, you can mitigate and slow down how much damage ensues, so you be able to last a little bit longer. So, but Andre's dad's really pushing for it. It's like, and once again, we still don't have the full context of like, yes, he knew about the woods and he kind of let it slide, and he said like, right, it's my way of protecting you. Now, we didn't get into the nitty gritty of what that necessarily means. It's like, well, it probably is just a thing of if I kept my mouth shut, they wouldn't come after you. You wouldn't be one of those students down there. Because the way Kate made it sound, like it seemed like each one of those students down there had like some like maybe psychological issues, which history has shown it is the I guess maybe mentally impaired might have been experimented on because they are the easiest one to kind of just sweep under the rug. So I want it, because it's like, oh, Andy, oh, he was kind of funny, but he was sad sometimes, and he was bipolar. So now I'm like, okay, so is that supposed to imply like everyone, all the students that were kept in the woods had a mental situation going on, a mental health situation going on that made them people that they could easily disappear without really too much trouble. I don't know if that's what that was kind of implying. But either way, maybe that's how he was protecting Andre. Like if I didn't fall in line, you would have been a test subject in the woods. But for him, it's like, you need to like be a hero. Like the only person that can kind of decide is you, how you want to go about it. It's like, right, get the polarity suit ready and get it shrunk down so that it fits you. It's your time to rise. Like you're the only one that can decide how you want to go about being a hero. Like don't let anyone else kind of make that decision for you. Because he had been making that decision for so long because it makes you wonder, did he know about his circumstances before now? And maybe that's why he pushed Andre so hard with the whole polarity thing of like, this world needs a polarity and it has to be you because I can't keep doing this forever. Which is also kind of effed up because it's like, if he knew, it's like, knowing what happened to you, you're kind of putting your son on that same path by you. Because like, Andre was trying to explain, but his dad kind of cut him off. So it's a thing of he probably does understand and know. But once again, how much did he know before this recent stint in a hospital? Like, is this his first time ever hearing about it, or did he have prior knowledge? If he had prior knowledge, it makes it even more effed up that he's pushing Andre down that route, because it's like, you're asking your son to use his powers more and more and end up in the exact circumstance you're in right now. I want to give him a little benefit of the doubt and assume he didn't know that at the time. But it's just, like I said, maybe even in that moment, he still didn't know when he was kind of pushing Andre. Still like, no, you got to go out there and do the hero thing. So I'd also forgot to talk about the fact is that Kate did numb Sam. Granted, her powers do have a limit. Maybe the limit affects soups at a like expedited rate faster than it does. What I mean is like whatever effect happens to a soup, maybe it doesn't last as long on a soup than it does a human. But even because we don't know how long that's going to last, it lasts enough throughout this episode, sure, that he can kill people without feeling any remorse about it. Because his anger could only take him so far because he's still sensitive enough to be like, it is kind of effed up that we're killing innocent people. And Kate ended up removing all of that. So I wonder, will he continue seeing his Luke in the future? Because that could always be their way to kind of keep Patrick around as Golden Boy, Patrick Schwarzenegger around as Golden Boy can always bring him in that way being, especially with the whole thing of how Sam sees puppets, that Luke could be his Jiminy Cricket, his conscience. Even though, like, I think that's kind of interesting too, that at the moment he turned away from Emma, who Emma was his conscience for a while, now that he kind of pushed her away, Luke kind of stepped into that. But now, like, Luke is like, all right, fuck it. Go be crazy and walked away. So probably won't be seeing Luke, but maybe if he can turn things around in the future, maybe that might lead to him being like, hey, I'm going to, maybe Luke will pop up more in that capacity. So we'll see. Because obviously that stems from him on some level, because it's like, right, it's your subconscious manifesting itself as your brother. It's not like it's actually him, but it's like on some level, this is wrong, and some part of your messed up psyche is registering that it's wrong. I also love the whole aspect of Marie versus Maverick. It gave me season 1 premiere vibe, the series premiere, because who was the first soup that Butcher and Huey went up against in the confines of the show? And like in with our introduction to the show, what was the first fight against Translucent? How did Butcher see Translucent? He spit blood on him. And it's like, how is Marie seeing him? Because she's able to see the blood pumping through him. I'm like, it feels like that was meant to be kind of full circle in that same capacity. It's funny because they were considering putting Translucent. It's like, ever since Translucent died, the Seven has always been missing someone, because I think the last time they had a full roster, I was about to say was season 3 when Supersonic was a part of it, but it's like, no, even then they were still missing a member. There's always been that void, and obviously when he died, like, no, I'm taking that back. Like that was the last time we had a full 7 roster, because I forgot at that point, like the Deep and by that point, because I was like, right, America's Hero, that's when Deep was brought back in. So that is the last time in this franchise we had the full roster of the 7. And even then, that only lasted 1 episode, because immediately the next episode, Supersonic was murdered at the end. So for a split second, we had a full 7. So, but either way, they were trying to put Maverick up there to kind of replace Translucent's like recurrently empty spot. But it's like, yeah, but he shared his dad's proclivities of being a pervert. So that was kind of like a no-go for Ashley. Obviously, Marie also had her badass moment when that Soup, who was kind of, I guess, because he was also crawling on all four while he was teleporting. I was like, it feels like that's supposed to be like a wink and nod to Nightcrawler. But I mean, I associate that with like Alan Cummings because I'm not familiar with the other actor who played like the younger Nightcrawler in the movies. But he was on all fours in the movies, weren't he? I don't remember. I'm not sure. I don't remember if he's done that in the animated series or in the comics. Maybe he has. I'm just not that well versed in Nightcrawler. But like, yeah, Marie stopped him because she, took all the trauma of what happened before and made blood daggers and like shot them like bullets and ended up ripping into him and just burping like, oh my God, I'm gonna put that in my next movie. But it's probably going to put Marie in the position of like a Stormfront like the next time there's a movie around that situation. But either way. And I love that it's like, oh, okay, because she was trying to protect Jordan at the same time as well as like saving the trustees. And it's like, hey, we are a good team together. And as Jordan's about to approach her, Kate's about to like do that. And Marie out of instinct blew her fucking arm off. I was like, I guess she's going to have a robot arm going forward, maybe. That will be pretty metal. Because her powers are more powerful because, once again, she's not on a pill. So it's like, how are you pushing this many people? It's like, yeah, Indira was like limiting my powers. Granted, it'll probably be she probably, because at least with the Marie situation, when she touched Marie, it's like, and she dragged everyone into her or their collective minds in episode 6. Like, that was kind of like a rush of everything hitting her at once. So she probably has to really, really focus and like, especially with how much she's pushing right now, she probably couldn't just do it without touching someone. She probably, with how much she's put of a strain on her body, she probably would have to physically touch. Because it seemed like maybe she wouldn't have to touch anyone to like push them. To be fair, that was drag them into her mind, not necessarily pushing them. So it might be a different muscle to flex in a superhero sense. But yeah, fucking arm got blown off. So that was pretty wild. And then the man himself shows up, Homelander. I like it, like what Homelander does. Like anytime he shows up, you get scared because you're like, okay, so is he going to just start decimating people? Because you're like, okay, this is bad. Because I'm like, he's looking at Jordan and Marie. I'm like, is he about to kill one of you? And it's like, she's like, sir, he's like, what kind of monster are you? And you're just like, oh. You suck for that. You suck so much. Especially because like Marie kind of took that step over like her trauma of being considered a monster. I don't know if Homelander is going to attribute her abilities to Newman. I don't know if he's going to like put those two and two together like that or not. He has read Newman's files, so he might know she's a bloodbender. Even though like we're only finding that out, he found out she was a Soup last season. So, but it could be like, specifically like in the files that Edgar had on her, could have registered her as a bloodbender, so he might already be able to put two and two together in that regard. Maybe he doesn't pay attention, maybe he hasn't read up enough to know or even care about Marie in that regard. But for him, it's like because at first I was like, I thought he was coming at this from like that position he had last season where it's like, oh, you killed your fellow Soups. What kind of, when he was jumping down A-Train's throat for killing Blue Hulk, but then you immediately see A-Train staring at Noir's helmet, being like, yo, didn't you just tell us that you ended up killing Noir and you're jumping down my throat for killing somebody? Do as I say, not as I do, you fucking hypocrite type of thing. So like, that's what I thought that was on. Like, I thought that's what we were doing. But it seems like, that's all lead up to the setup because, hey, our 4 heroes are now enemy number 1 because it's like they're considered the ones who cause all the issues and Sam and Kate are the actual heroes. It's like, to be fair, Kate can push everyone to create that narrative. I mean, to be fair, who was around doing the most damage? I mean, it's Vought, so they're going to help cover that up. So it's like, well, Sam did attack Burke, but it's like, no. We'll kind of push that under the rug. It was all the other Soups that were doing the damage. So it could easily be like, oh, like, as long as you kind of remove, because Kate was never shown on camera. Like, I mean, because when she killed Jeff, like, she wasn't on camera. She was off camera doing that. So, and anyone that could say like anything that Sam did, it was like, well, to be fair, like no, there are no witnesses to say what Sam did, and it's like, oh, him and Kate were fighting against the Guardians of Godolphin, like, because they're bad, that, you know. So it's like, once again, that narrative spin, kind of throwing them under the bus. So that's how you get around that. Because that was a question too, was whether or not, most like, and it makes sense why Godolphin you would continue, because hey, it's Vought. Vought has managed time and time again, no matter what the boys have gotten on Vought, there's always been some situation that's kind of turned things in their favor. So why wouldn't it happen for Godolphin as well? What I thought was interesting is when I was like, is Homelander going to show up? But part of me was also thinking, could Ryan be the one to show up? It's sometime after season 3, but we don't know how long it's been since season 3, so Ryan might not be out and about on his own. Even though he's turning into a little Homelander Jr., we don't know where he fully stands. We probably won't know until season 4. But yeah, like I said, Homelander like lasering Maria. I was like, how is that going to work? It's like, I guess maybe subconsciously, maybe her blood bending ability. He's like, oh yeah, you took that. I guess it's like Homelander didn't want to kill you, so he probably like nerfed himself a little bit just to make sure you didn't die. I mean, we like a regular human will be mincemeat because of that, but a soup can take that. I mean, you look at Maeve. Maeve took his blast directly. I mean, even look at Stormfront. You know, laser my tits, right? So it's doable. And so all 4 of our heroes, Marie, Jordan, Andre, and Emma, are all locked up, taking the fault for this. And then you have like Homelander being so smug about it, being like, ah, yes, like reigning, you know, it's like his further control of things, of just like, yeah, I'm able to control the narrative, which once again speaks volumes about, once again, his trial, potentially, and maybe lack thereof one. Maybe he'll just be found not guilty type of situation. But because he's going to come off looking probably even more like the hero, because they're going to be like, hey, Homelander showed up in the nick of time to back up the true Guardians of Godolphin and help them rectify the whole situation. So that's going to help out with his public image even more in the aftermath of season 3's finale. So now the question is, like, are they in some version of, like, oh god, is it kind of going to be like the boys' version of The Raft or Blackgate, where like I don't think we're going to go like full Arkham Asylum with it. I'd probably say it's probably going to be more like Marvel's The Raft, that being more like a lot of supervillains and people get locked up. I mean, well, does it? I mean, maybe it's even supposed to be a little Civil War-ish, because a lot of the people on Steve's team were locked up, and they were locked up in a raft in Civil War, if I'm not mistaken, in the movies, I think so. So maybe it's a little bit of a parallel there, but it's like, yeah, there's no doors or anything anywhere. So I mean, I was about to say, like, it probably makes it hard for even Emma to shrink down and get out, but maybe we could. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what their circumstances are. This was a shorter episode. I looked through the other episodes. The shortest episode, there was at least 2 episodes that were like 40 minutes. This one's like 38, but a lot of that, like quite a bit of that, is credits. So I'd probably say this is probably closer to probably like 35, 36 minutes. I was like, interesting. Makes you wonder, did they cut down this episode just because it was just natural? Was it always meant to be that short? Or was there some stuff they were like, oh, we won't include that, we'll cut that out? I'm curious, like, was it always meant to be on the shorter end? But then we got our little tease at the end. Seems like Homelander isn't our only cameo we got this episode. It was also Butcher who was there, and he goes to the woods. So, once again, still unclear about the Jeff situation. Either he was Mallory's inside person, but like I said, because also Ashley, the other Ashley, said something, it might have just been like, he had to be like Vought's inside person, and maybe Butcher is the one that was meant to keep an eye on Indira, but he ends up finding the woods, and it's like, oh, what have you cunts been up to, or something like that. I'm like, interesting. I mean, all of it's kind of been taken care of. There's nothing down there for Butcher to take and potentially kind of use against Newman or Homelander, so. But obviously, the show is meant to lead directly into season 4 of The Boys, so I can only assume that's it's. I think they clarify they haven't given a specific date, but it is sometime next year. But I think I was listening to someone recently who was saying that it's kind of also meant to be like The Boys season 4 is also supposed to lead directly into season 2. Like there's going to be interest because obviously there's elements that are set up in this that will definitely carry over into season 4 of The Boys. But how many of these characters will pop up? Like we probably won't catch up with our core characters until we'll probably get cameo appearances, maybe get teases to them at the end of season 4 of The Boys. But we won't return back to a lot of this until maybe season 2 of Gen V. I'm so curious to see how they play that out for season 4 of The Boys. Because, like, obviously this is on the more student side of things. So, and people have made that argument they want Gen V to stay like, right, you can be connected, but like let Gen V, the squad in Gen V, deal with their own stuff. Let the boys handle their own stuff. Like they're dealing with things on a bigger scale, even though it's all intertwined. Let them stay doing what they're dealing with, and let Gen V kind of deal with its own thing. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. Obviously, Gen V was renewed for a second season. I think it was around the time episode 6 came out. The news came out that it was renewed. So very excited to see season 2. Once again, we probably won't be getting that until. I don't know if they're probably going to try and. I mean, I guess it depends. They might try and avoid putting The Boys and Gen V in the same year. So we probably won't be getting Gen V in 2024. It might be like they probably alternate years. So the next season of Gen V, season 2, might not be until 2025. Maybe. That just depends on probably a lot of things of how far along they are in the process for season 2. Like, how have they started pre-production? Like, have they written up any of season 2? Obviously, the actors, I believe, are still on strike at the time of recording this, so not like you could film anything right now anyway. But either way, I'm excited to see where things take us going forward with The Boys, but I'm also excited to see where season 2 takes us with all the craziness that is Gen V as well, and where we pick up with this once again, whether it's in The Boys season 4 in a larger capacity, or whether it's just largely saved until Gen V season 2. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm so excited to find out. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.